What the hell are you doing in here, old man? This isn't a homeless shelter. Derek Sterling's voice booms across Sterling and Associates, deliberately loud enough for every customer to hear. He storms toward James Washington, pointing aggressively at the 78-year-old's modest cardigan. Look at yourself! Look at this place! Derek sweeps his arm toward the luxury displays with theatrical disgust. You're embarrassing our real customers. James stands motionless, clutching a small velvet box containing his late wife's ring. Shoppers pull out phones, recording the public humiliation. Derek snaps his fingers like summoning a dog. Security! Remove this man before he steals something. Sir, I haven't done anything, James begins. Don't sir me. Derek cuts him off with a laugh. Save that act for someone stupid enough to believe it. The manager's cruelty escalates with each word, unaware he's destroying the father of his own boss. Have you ever watched pure evil disguised as authority? 6 hours earlier, James Washington sits in his cramped Brooklyn apartment, steam rising from an iron as he presses his best cardigan with methodical care. Framed photographs line the mantel. Military portraits showing a young man in crisp uniform, postal service awards spanning 3 decades, community volunteer certificates from local schools and churches. At the center sits Margaret's picture, her warm smile frozen in time from their wedding day 48 years ago. Today's the day, Maggie, he whispers to the photograph, his voice thick with emotion. 35 years I've been saving for this moment. His weathered fingers, marked by paper cuts from decades of mail sorting, open a small jewelry box. Inside lies a modest antique ring, the engagement ring he never could afford to give Margaret 5 decades ago. The guilt still stings like a fresh wound. 3 jobs he worked back then: postal service by day, security guard at night, weekend janitor at the community center, barely making ends meet while she wore a simple gold band from the 5 and dime and never once complained. I'm finally going to buy you the ring you deserved, the one I promised you in that letter. What James doesn't know is that his son, Michael, has spent the last 6 months orchestrating the perfect surprise, a secret that will transform everything. Across the city, in a gleaming Manhattan office tower, Michael Washington reviews quarterly financial reports on his laptop. At 35, he built a technology empire worth over $400 million. His corner office overlooks Central Park, but his desk displays the same humble family photos, including one of James in his postal uniform, pride radiating from both their faces at Michael's MIT graduation ceremony. An email notification pings. Sterling & Associates acquisition complete, 6-month performance, revenue up 23%, customer satisfaction 97%. Michael smiles, remembering the day he first conceived this plan. 6 months ago, he quietly purchased the luxury jewelry chain his father had admired during a rare visit to Manhattan. They'd walked past Sterling & Associates, and James had stopped, mesmerized by a vintage engagement ring in the window. Someday, James had whispered, when I save enough, I'll buy your mother something like that. Michael made a decision at that moment. His father would have that experience, but he'd receive the respect and treatment he'd been denied his entire life. Michael dials the store's direct line. Derek, it's Michael Washington. My father will be visiting today around 2 o'clock. I want him treated like absolute royalty. Derek Sterling straightens in his office chair, recognizing the voice of the mysterious owner who'd transformed their struggling boutique into Manhattan's most profitable jewelry destination. Of course, Mr. Washington, what's his name? James Washington, elderly gentleman, probably wearing a cardigan, very dignified. But Derek, this is absolutely crucial. Don't tell him I own the store. I want to surprise him later tonight at dinner. Derek scribbles detailed notes. VIP, James Washington, royal treatment, elderly gentleman, cardigan, do not reveal owner identity, surprise planned. Understood completely, sir. Your father will receive our finest service. Should I personally handle his visit? That would be perfect. Make him feel like the king he is. After ending the call, Derek places the note prominently on his desk, weighing it down with his coffee mug. He's built his reputation on exceeding expectations, especially for high-value clients. This James Washington will experience luxury beyond imagination, but fate, cruel and unpredictable, has other plans. A sudden emergency meeting about holiday inventory pulls Derek away from his office. The district manager demands immediate answers about diamond supply chain issues. In his haste to gather reports, Derek knocks over his coffee mug, sending liquid cascading across his desk. "Damn it," he mutters, grabbing paper towels to prevent damage to his computer. When Derek returns 90 minutes later, the maintenance crew has cleaned his entire office. The crucial note, now coffee-stained and illegible, lies crumpled in a wastebasket beneath his desk, unread by anyone who could have prevented the coming disaster. Meanwhile, James rides the subway into Manhattan, clutching Margaret's ring box like a sacred relic. He rereads a yellowed letter she wrote 30 years ago, her delicate handwriting faded but still legible. "James, my love isn't measured in carats or gold bands, but someday, when you can afford it, I'd love a ring that sparkles like your eyes when you look at me with such devotion." That someday finally arrived, purchased with Social Security checks and careful budgeting. The subway car fills with young professionals in expensive suits, their confident conversations about stock options, luxury vacations, and designer purchases creating a soundtrack of privilege. James feels invisible among them, just another elderly man from the outer boroughs who doesn't quite belong in their world. At Sterling & Associates, Derek surveys his domain with practiced satisfaction. The store gleams under imported crystal chandeliers, every surface polished to mirror perfection. Wealthy clientele browse casually while Melissa Rodriguez, his most capable sales associate, assists customers with genuine warmth that Derek reserves only for the obviously affluent. Derek has cultivated this exclusive atmosphere through years of careful customer screening. He prides himself on maintaining standards, though those standards often depend heavily on a customer's appearance, accent, and presumed wealth. A well-dressed, elderly white couple enters, and Derek personally greets them with practiced charm. "Welcome to Sterling & Associates. How may I create something extraordinary for you today?" His smile radiates warmth. His posture suggests unlimited time and attention. Minutes later, a young black professional in expensive designer clothes arrives. Derek's smile becomes noticeably cooler, his service more perfunctory. "Are you looking for something specific within a particular price range?" The subtle shift isn't lost on Melissa, who quietly steps in to provide the excellent service Derek should have offered, her professionalism highlighting his prejudice. Derek's phone buzzes with a text message. He glances at it while continuing to observe the showroom for potential security issues. "Running late for Dad's visit. Make sure he's treated perfectly. M.W." The message confuses Derek momentarily. Dad? Must be some family business arrangement he's unaware of. He pockets the phone without much thought, focused instead on watching a teenager whose casual clothes suggest limited purchasing power. As the afternoon progresses, Derek feels confident about his performance. Revenue exceeds projections, security protocols are maintained, and the store's exclusive reputation remains untarnished. He's forgotten entirely about both the discarded note and the cryptic text message, two missed opportunities that might have prevented the approaching catastrophe. James Washington stands outside Sterling & Associates, gathering courage for the moment he's dreamed about for 35 years. James Washington pushes through the heavy glass doors of Sterling & Associates, immediately overwhelmed by the opulent sanctuary before him. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across marble floors so polished they reflect like mirrors. Display cases hold jewelry that costs more than his annual Social Security income. He approaches the nearest case with reverence, studying engagement rings that sparkle like captured starlight. For a moment, he imagines Margaret beside him, her excitement at finally receiving the symbol of love she deserved. That's when Derek Sterling spots him. "What the hell are you doing in here, old man? This isn't a homeless shelter." Derek's voice booms across the store, deliberately loud enough for every customer to hear. He storms toward James, pointing aggressively at the elderly man's carefully pressed cardigan. "Look at yourself. Look at this place." Derek sweeps his arm toward the luxury displays with theatrical disgust. "You're embarrassing our real customers." James freezes, clutching Margaret's ring box in his pocket like a lifeline. Wealthy shoppers stop their conversations, phones emerging from designer purses to capture the unfolding spectacle. "Sir, I have an appointment." James begins, his voice steady despite the public humiliation. Appointment? Derek laughs with cruel amusement. I handle all appointments personally. What's the name? James Washington. I spoke with someone about... Washington? Derek checks his tablet, frowning. I don't see any James Washington. Are you sure you have the right store? The question drips with condescension. Derek's eyes scan James from head to toe, taking inventory of every modest detail. The older cardigan, the worn but clean shoes, the hands that show decades of manual labor. Maybe you meant the pawn shop down the street? Derek suggests, his voice carrying just loud enough for nearby customers to snicker. Heat floods James's cheeks. 40 years of delivering mail through every weather condition, building relationships in his community, earning respect through quiet dignity, all reduced to this moment of public mockery. I've saved for 35 years for today, James says quietly, maintaining his composure with military precision. Derek snaps his fingers like summoning a dog. Security! We have a situation here! Sir, I haven't done anything wrong. Don't sir me! Derek cuts him off with another laugh. Save that act for someone stupid enough to believe it. Melissa Rodriguez approaches diplomatically. Mr. Sterling, perhaps I could help this gentleman. I've got this handled, Melissa. Derek snaps, his authority absolute. Return to your station. Derek turns back to James with escalating hostility. Sir, our insurance requires all customers to meet certain standards. For everyone's protection, you understand. Standards? James asks, confusion mixing with growing hurt. Proper identification, financial pre-qualification, appropriate attire. Derek's voice grows colder with each word. These pieces start at $50,000. Are you certain you're in the right place? The numbers hit like physical blows. James had researched ring prices, saved every possible penny, but hearing it stated so dismissively makes his modest savings feel pathetic. I have identification, James offers, his hands trembling slightly as he reaches for his worn leather wallet. Derek examines the driver's license with theatrical suspicion. Brooklyn address, social security card. He looks up with mock concern. Sir, do you understand what kind of establishment this is? Other customers inch closer, some recording openly now. The elderly black man's humiliation becomes their entertainment, a social media moment in the making. Sir, I'm going to need you to empty your pockets completely. Excuse me? Security protocol, empty your pockets now. James hesitates, then slowly removes his wallet, keys, and finally Margaret's small velvet box. His most precious possession was exposed to public scrutiny. Derek opens the box without permission, revealing the modest antique ring inside. This isn't from our store. Where did you get this? It belonged to my wife, her grandmother's ring. Derek's expression suggests he's caught James in a lie. Sir, we're going to need to document this visit. Brad, get the security footage ready. His assistant approaches uncomfortably, positioning himself to block James's path to the door. I'm calling the police, Derek announces, loud enough for everyone to hear. We may have an attempted fraud situation here. The word police sends visible fear through James's weathered frame. At 78, he remembers when calling police on an elderly black man meant far worse than embarrassment. James's dignity wavers for the first time. Please, don't call the police. I'll leave quietly. But as he turns toward the door, defeated and broken, Derek's phone buzzes with an incoming text message. The message makes Derek's face go pale. Derek Sterling reads the text message, his confident facade flickering for just a moment. The words Dad's visit and treated perfectly don't register any connection to the elderly black man standing before him. Must be referring to someone else entirely, perhaps another VIP client's family member. He quickly recovers, becoming more aggressive to mask his sudden uncertainty and maintain control over what he perceives as a deteriorating situation. Sir, I need you to step back while I verify some information, Derek commands, his voice growing louder and more authoritative with each word. James backs toward the wall, clutching Margaret's ring box as other customers openly stare with a mixture of fascination and horror. Some pull out phones, instinctively sensing a moment about to go viral across social media platforms. What's happening here? Asks Mrs. Ashford, a wealthy regular customer in her 60s who's spent hundreds of thousands at the store. This gentleman looks absolutely terrified. Derek forces a professional smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Just routine security screening, Mrs. Ashford. Nothing to concern yourself with. Routine? Mrs. Ashford's voice carries deep skepticism. I've been shopping here for 15 years and never been asked to empty my pockets. Derek's jaw tightens visibly. Customer complaints about his methods could reach corporate management within hours. Ma'am, different situations require different protocols based on security assessments. What situation exactly? Pressed Mrs. Ashford with growing indignation. He's an elderly man looking at jewelry for his wife. Derek feels control slipping away and doubles down with increasing desperation. Ma'am, please allow security professionals to handle security matters without interference. He turns back to James with renewed hostility, sensing weakness and vulnerability to exploit. Sir, I'm going to need you to remove your jacket and shoes immediately. My shoes? James asks, bewildered by the escalating absurdity of the demands. Theft prevention protocol. We've had multiple incidents with concealment in clothing and footwear. Audible gasps ripple through the gathering crowd of customers and staff. Derek Sterling has just accused a 78-year-old veteran of planning to steal jewelry by hiding it in his shoes. This is absolutely insane, mutters a young man recording with his phone. You're literally harassing a grandfather who could be your own father. Derek spins around with barely contained rage. Sir, please stop recording immediately and mind your own business. This is my business. I'm a customer too, and I'm watching you systematically abuse another human being. Sir, if you don't stop interfering with store security procedures, I'll have to ask you to leave as well. The young man doesn't budge, his phone still recording every word. Call your manager then. I want to speak to whoever's in charge here. Derek's confidence wavers again like a house of cards in a strong wind. He is the manager, but admitting that might escalate the situation beyond his ability to control. More customers gather, drawn by the commotion and the increasingly hostile atmosphere. The luxury store's serene ambiance has transformed into something resembling a courtroom drama. Melissa Rodriguez approaches once more, her professional demeanor barely concealing her growing distress. Mr. Sterling, perhaps we should call Mr. Washington's office to clarify. Melissa, final warning. Derek snaps with venom. Return to your station immediately or face disciplinary action and possible termination. James watches this chaos unfold around him, feeling responsible for putting everyone in an uncomfortable position. The weight of causing such disruption crushes his spirit further. Please, I don't want to cause any more trouble for anyone. You'll just what exactly? Derek interrupts savagely, sensing blood in the water. Leave? Excellent idea. But first, security needs to clear you completely according to protocol. Derek's voice grows more theatrical, playing to his audience of recording customers. We can't have people walking out with merchandise concealed in their clothing. The accusation hangs in the air like a toxic cloud. Derek has now publicly accused James of attempted theft without any evidence whatsoever. The store's phone rings shrilly, cutting through the tension like a fire alarm. Derek glances at the caller ID display. Washington Luxury, corporate headquarters. His blood runs cold through his veins. Corporate headquarters rarely calls individual stores directly unless something extraordinarily serious has happened. Sterling and Associates, Derek speaking, he answers, trying desperately to maintain professional composure. Derek, this is Patricia Martinez from Corporate Operations, comes the crisp, no-nonsense voice. We've received multiple concerning calls about an incident at your location. Derek's eyes darted frantically to the customer still recording every moment. Already? How could corporations know about this already? Ma'am, we're simply handling a routine security matter according to established protocols. Routine? Patricia's voice sharpens like a blade. Derek, we're getting real-time social media alerts about an elderly black man being systematically harassed in our Madison Avenue flagship location. Derek's face drains completely of color. The recordings have already hit social media platforms. His career hangs precariously in the balance of this phone conversation. Ma'am, I can explain the entire situation if you'll allow me. Is there a James Washington in your store right now at this very moment? Derek nearly drops the phone, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Yes, ma'am, there is. And how exactly are you currently treating Mr. Washington? We're following established security protocols for suspicious individuals. Derek, listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Michael Washington owns your store. Does that name mean anything to you? Derek's world tilts sideways on its axis. Michael Washington, the owner, the mysterious billionaire who bought the entire chain 6 months ago. The voice he speaks to weekly about performance metrics and revenue targets. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Washington is my direct employer. Your boss. Correct. And the elderly gentleman you're currently humiliating in front of paying customers? That's his father. The phone feels like a lead weight in Derek's hands. Father. Michael Washington's father, the VIP treatment he was supposed to receive, the missed note on his desk, the text message about Dad's visit. Every piece clicks into horrifying, career-ending focus. Ma'am, there's been a terrible, catastrophic misunderstanding. Fix it immediately. Mr. Washington is en route to your location as we speak. And Derek? If I were you, I'd start updating my resume tonight. The line goes dead with finality. Derek stands frozen like a statue, phone in hand, as the full magnitude of his mistake crashes over him like a devastating tsunami. He's just spent the last 25 minutes publicly humiliating the father of the most powerful man in luxury retail. The customers sense something fundamental has shifted in the room's power dynamics. Derek's arrogance has evaporated completely, replaced by visible panic and terror. Everything all right there, Derek? Asks Mrs. Ashford with false sweetness and knowing suspicion. Derek can't form words. His mouth opens and closes soundlessly as he processes the complete career-ending implications of his actions. James watches this strange transformation with growing confusion. One single phone call has reduced the authoritative manager to a trembling, speechless mess. Sir? James asks with gentle concern. Is there some kind of problem? Derek's head snaps toward James like a whip crack, seeing him for the first time not as a security threat, but as the father of his own boss, the man whose comfort and happiness could determine Derek's entire future. Mr. Washington, Derek begins, his voice cracking like a teenager's. I think there may have been some significance. Confusion. Confusion about what exactly? Asks the young man, still recording. About whether elderly black men deserve basic human dignity and respect? Derek wants desperately to explain, to grovel, to somehow magically undo the last 25 minutes of recorded bigotry. But how do you apologize for exposing your true character so completely and publicly? Mr. Washington, Derek tries again, approaching James with newfound deference. Perhaps we could discuss this situation privately in my office. Discuss what privately? Mrs. Ashford demands with righteous indignation. You just spent 25 minutes humiliating this gentleman publicly. If you have something to say it right here. The crowd of customers has grown substantially. Word of the confrontation has spread throughout the entire store. Employees whisper nervously among themselves, sensing the seismic shift in power dynamics. Derek's phone buzzes with another text message. 2 minutes away. Dad better be smiling when I get there. MW, 2 minutes. Michael Washington will arrive in exactly 2 minutes to find his father traumatized and a store full of witnesses documenting Derek's systematic bigotry. Derek realizes with crystal clarity that his career in luxury retail is completely finished. The only question now is whether he can somehow minimize the damage to his life, reputation, and future employment prospects. The heavy glass doors swing open with commanding force. Michael Washington strides through the glass doors like a force of nature, his presence immediately commanding attention from every person in the marble sanctuary. His tailored Italian suit speaks of wealth and power, but his expression radiates something far more dangerous, protective fury barely held in check by years of business discipline. His dark eyes sweep the scene with laser precision, taking inventory of the disaster unfolding before him. His father pressed against the wall like a cornered animal, surrounded by gawking customers. Derek Sterling looked pale and panicked, sweat beading on his forehead. Wealthy shoppers clutching phones, recording what they instinctively sense is about to become legendary social media content. The store's usual hushed luxury has transformed into something resembling a courthouse drama, with his father cast as the defendant in a trial he never asked to join. Dad? Michael's voice cuts through the tension like a blade through silk. The single word detonates like a bomb in the hushed store. Every conversation stops mid-sentence. Every phone pivots to focus on the two men now staring at each other across the marble expanse. The word hangs in the air with the weight of revelation. Derek Sterling feels his legs turn to water. Dad. The text message about Dad's visit, the missed note on his desk, the VIP treatment that was supposed to happen. Every piece of the puzzle clicks into place with devastating, career-ending clarity. James Washington's weathered face transforms from confusion to overwhelming relief, years of accumulated pain melting away in an instant. "Michael, son, what are you doing here?" "Someone called me," Michael says, his voice tight with controlled rage. "Told me my father was being harassed in my store." The possessive pronoun, my store, sends another shockwave through the watching crowd. Derek Sterling owns nothing here. Michael Washington owns everything, including Derek's future. Michael moves toward his father with swift, protective strides, completely ignoring Derek's existence as if the man were invisible. "Dad, are you hurt? Did anyone put their hands on you?" "I'm fine, son," James says quietly, but his trembling hands betray the trauma of the last 30 minutes. "Just a misunderstanding about my appointment." "Misunderstanding?" Michael's voice carries across the store with arctic coldness. "Derek Sterling." Derek nearly jumps out of his skin at hearing his name spoken like a curse. "Yes, Mr. Washington, sir." "Don't say a word." Michael's command stops Derek mid-sentence with the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Not until I understand exactly what happened to my father." He turns back to James with infinite gentleness, the contrast between his fury toward Derek and his love for his father starkly visible to everyone watching. "Dad, tell me everything. Start from the beginning." James glances around at the recording customers, the gawking employees, the entire spectacle that his simple desire to buy a ring has created. "Son, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No!" Michael's voice hardens to diamond. "Whatever happened to you happened publicly, in front of witnesses and cameras. The response happens publicly, too." Derek tries desperately to interrupt. "Mr. Washington, if I could just explain the situation." Michael's head snaps toward Derek with predatory intensity that makes several customers step backward. "Did I give you permission to speak?" "No, sir, but I thought—" "Then don't." Michael's tone could freeze fire. "When my father is talking, you listen. When he's finished, you pray I don't destroy you." The threat hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. Derek realizes with crystal clarity that his life as he knows it is over. James, with characteristic dignity, recounts the events calmly and methodically. The initial confrontation about dress codes, the demands to empty his pockets like a common criminal, the accusations of theft without evidence, the threat to call police on a 78-year-old veteran. The systematic humiliation was designed to drive him from the store in shame. With each detail, Michael's expression grows darker, his jaw tightening with barely restrained fury. The customers watch in fascination as one of the most powerful men in retail absorbs the complete picture of his employees' systematic bigotry. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Michael says when James finishes his account. "My father came here to buy a ring for my late mother, and you decided he was a criminal because of how he looks." Derek's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air on dry land. "Mr. Washington, I had no idea he was your father." "Stop!" Michael's voice explodes across the store like a thunderclap. "That sentence right there, that's the entire problem." He takes a deliberate step toward Derek, who involuntarily steps backward until he hits the jewelry display case. "You had no idea he was my father. So that made it acceptable to treat him like garbage." "No, sir, I didn't mean it that way." "You didn't mean what exactly?" "To reveal exactly who you are when you think no one important is watching." Michael turns to address the entire store, his voice carrying to every corner with prosecutorial precision. "Ladies and gentlemen, let me properly introduce myself. I'm Michael Washington, owner of Sterling & Associates and the entire Washington Luxury Group." Audible gasps echo through the store like a wave. Several customers look down at their phones, suddenly realizing they're witnessing something that will be replayed millions of times across every social media platform. "6 months ago, I bought this entire chain for one very specific reason," Michael continues, his arm going protectively around his father's shoulders. I wanted to create a place where my father could shop with the dignity he's earned but been denied his entire life. The father-son gesture becomes the rewatch trigger, the moment that will make viewers replay the video to catch the emotional nuance they missed during their first viewing. This man, Michael gestures to James with infinite pride, raised me alone after my mother died of cancer when I was 12. He worked 3 jobs simultaneously to put me through MIT. He never missed a single day of work in 37 years of postal service. He served our country with distinction in Vietnam. Michael's voice grows stronger with each word, his pride in his father evident to everyone present, creating a stark contrast with Derek's earlier cruelty. He saved every penny of his Social Security for 35 years to buy my mother the engagement ring he couldn't afford when they were young and struggling. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of his retirement. Derek looks like he's about to vomit as the full scope of his error becomes crystal clear to everyone watching. Instead, Michael's voice turns deadly quiet. He walked into my store and met you. Melissa Rodriguez steps forward tentatively, recognizing this might be her only chance to speak. Mr. Washington, I tried to intervene multiple times. I know you did, Melissa. I saw everything. Michael's tone softens immediately when addressing her. You'll be receiving a substantial promotion and bonus for being the only employee who acted with basic human decency. Derek finally finds his voice, desperation making him bold. Mr. Washington, I sincerely apologize for this terrible misunderstanding. If I had known— Know what? Michael cuts him off with surgical precision. Know that treating elderly customers with respect might affect your paycheck? Do you know that basic human dignity should depend on someone's family connections? Michael pulls out his phone and shows Derek the screen displaying a recording app. I've been recording this entire conversation from the moment I walked in, just like you recorded my father's humiliation for your security footage. Derek's face goes completely ashen. His career isn't just over, it's about to become a cautionary tale played on every screen in America. Here's what's going to happen, Michael announces to the room with the authority of absolute power. Derek Sterling is terminated effective immediately. Derek's legs give out completely. He grabs the display case for support, his expensive suit suddenly looking like costume jewelry. Mr. Washington, please, I have a mortgage, a wedding planned for next month, my fiancée. You should have thought about all of that before you decided my father was a criminal worthy of public humiliation. Michael's phone rings. He answers without looking away from Derek. Security? Yes, I need a team at the Madison Avenue location immediately. Employee termination and escort required. Full documentation. The words full documentation make Derek's humiliation complete. His exit will be recorded, shared, and remembered. Within minutes, 3 professional security guards enter the store. Their presence transforms Derek from authority figure to escorted criminal in the span of 30 minutes. Wait, please, Derek pleads desperately, grasping at any possibility of redemption. The note! There was a VIP note about special treatment. It got thrown away when my coffee spilled during the emergency meeting. You're saying you treat people badly unless you have written instructions to do otherwise? Michael's question silences Derek completely, exposing the fundamental flaw in his character. Mrs. Ashford speaks up from the crowd, her voice carrying the weight of moral authority. Young man, your father handled this situation with more grace and dignity than I've ever witnessed. You should be extraordinarily proud. I am, Michael says simply, his voice thick with emotion. Dad, I'm sorry this happened to you in my store, under my watch. James pats his son's hand with the same gentleness he's shown throughout the ordeal. Son, you can't control other people's hearts. You can only control your response to them. Even in his moment of vindication, James Washington extends grace to his abuser. The contrast between his dignity and Derek's behavior becomes even more stark and powerful. Michael turns to the crowd of customers still recording, addressing them directly. This video will be used to retrain every employee in our company. What you witnessed today will never happen again in any of our locations. He addresses the cameras with the confidence of someone accustomed to public speaking. My father taught me that wealth means nothing without character. Today he proved that character matters infinitely more than wealth. Derek is escorted from the store by security guards, his exit captured by a dozen phones. The man who humiliated James Washington leaves in the ultimate shame, his career and reputation destroyed by his own choices. "Now," Michael says to his father, his voice returning to warmth and love, "let's buy Mom that ring she deserves." James looks around at the watching crowd, then at his son with uncertainty. "Are you sure, son? All these people watching?" "Dad, they're not watching us anymore. They're witnessing something beautiful, a son honoring his father, and a father finally getting the respect he always deserved." 3 weeks later, James Washington sits in his modest Brooklyn apartment, morning sunlight streaming through windows that overlook the neighborhood he's called home for 40 years. The local newspaper spreads across his kitchen table, its headline reading, "Sterling Scandal Sparks Nationwide Retail Reform. Washington Luxury Group Implements Comprehensive Anti-Bias Training." The article features a photo of James and Michael at the press conference announcing new federal legislation inspired by the viral video. James traces his finger over the image, still amazed that his simple desire to buy a ring could spark such widespread change. A gentle knock interrupts his morning coffee ritual. James opens the door to find Derek Sterling standing in the hallway, no longer wearing expensive suits, but dressed in simple jeans and a plain shirt. His face shows the weight of 3 weeks spent confronting the consequences of his choices. "Mr. Washington?" Derek's voice carries none of its former arrogance. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see." "Come in, son," James says without hesitation, stepping aside to welcome the man who humiliated him. Derek enters tentatively, his eyes taking in the modest apartment filled with family photos and military commendations. The contrast with the luxury store couldn't be more stark. This is where real dignity lives. "I wanted to apologize again," Derek begins, his voice cracking slightly. "Properly this time." "You already apologized, son. In front of everyone." "No, sir. That apology was because I got caught. Because my career was ending. This apology is different." Derek sits in the offered chair, his hands trembling slightly. "I've spent 3 weeks learning about the damage I caused." James pours coffee for his unexpected guest, treating him with the same hospitality he'd show any visitor. "I lost my job immediately," Derek continues. "My fiancée called off our engagement after seeing the video. But you know what hurt most? Reading the comments from people who said they'd experienced the same treatment I gave you. That must have been difficult to process." James responds with genuine empathy. "Hundreds of them, Mr. Washington. Hundreds of people sharing stories about being judged, humiliated, dismissed because of how they looked or where they lived." Derek's voice breaks completely. "I realized I wasn't just a bad employee that day. I was part of a system that destroys people's dignity for entertainment." Derek reaches into his jacket and pulls out an envelope. "I wanted to return something that doesn't belong to me." "What's this?" "My final paycheck from the store. Severance pay totaling $50,000. I don't deserve it." Derek's hands shake as he places the envelope on the table. "I want you to use it for your community work." James studies the young man before him, seeing genuine remorse instead of calculated damage control. "Son, redemption isn't something you can purchase." "I know, sir, but it might be a place to start." Derek pulls out his phone and shows James a series of photos. "I've been volunteering at the Brooklyn Community Center, teaching financial literacy to seniors. Trying to understand the community I hurt." The photos show Derek working with elderly residents, his former arrogance replaced by patient humility. "These people have taught me more about dignity in 3 weeks than I learned in 35 years, Derek admits. Mrs. Johnson worked 3 jobs for 40 years and never owned a car. Mr. Rodriguez fought in Korea and still volunteers at the food bank every Sunday. They have nothing material, but they have everything that matters." James nods approvingly, recognizing the transformation beginning in the broken man before him. "I also wanted you to know about the changes at the stores," Derek continues. "Your son has revolutionized everything. Mandatory bias training for all employees, community partnerships with local organizations, diverse hiring practices." "And how do you know all this?" "Because he offered me a job." James raises an eyebrow in surprise. "Not in management," Derek clarifies quickly. "Entry level. Customer service." Starting over from the bottom, learning how to treat every person who walks through those doors with respect. And will you take it? Derek considers the question carefully. Only if you think I've earned the chance. Before James can respond, his phone rings. Michael's name appears on the screen. Dad, are you watching the news? James reaches for the remote, turning to the local morning show. The anchor is interviewing Melissa Rodriguez, now the regional manager for Washington Luxury Group. The changes Mr. Washington implemented have transformed our entire culture, Melissa explains to the camera. Every employee receives 40 hours of sensitivity training. We've partnered with community organizations to ensure our stores welcome everyone. The segment shows footage from various stores in the chain, highlighting diverse staff and customers shopping comfortably together. More importantly, Melissa continues, we've created the James Washington Scholarship Program, providing educational opportunities for retail workers pursuing higher education. Derek watches the television with something approaching wonder. He named a scholarship after you. My son believes in second chances, James observes. The question is whether you believe in them too. I want to earn mine, Derek says quietly. Michael's voice continues through the phone speaker. Dad, there's someone here who wants to speak with you. A woman's voice comes through the speaker. Mr. Washington, this is Governor Patricia Martinez. I'm calling to inform you that the James Washington Retail Dignity Act will be signed into law next week. Derek's eyes widened. Retail dignity legislation named after the man he humiliated. The act requires anti-discrimination training for all luxury retail establishments nationwide. The governor continues. Your experience has created lasting change that will protect millions of customers. After the call ends, Derek sits in stunned silence. You've changed an entire industry. We changed it, James corrects gently. Your actions that day created the opportunity for this transformation. How can you say that? I was awful to you. Son, sometimes the most important lessons come from the most difficult moments. You showed America what prejudice looks like, and America decided to do better. Derek stands to leave, but pauses at the door. Mr. Washington, would you consider having lunch with me sometime? I'd like to hear more about your stories, your experiences. I'd be honored, James responds immediately. But next time you're coming to my neighborhood. There's a little diner on Prospect Avenue that serves the best apple pie in Brooklyn. I'll be there, Derek promises. And for the first time in 3 weeks, he smiles genuinely. As Derek leaves, James returns to his morning paper. A small article near the bottom catches his attention. Former Sterling manager begins new career in community service. The brief story describes Derek's volunteer work and his acceptance into a social work graduate program. The transformation from privileged manager to community servant represents the kind of redemption James believes possible for anyone willing to do the work. His phone buzzes with a text message from Michael. Lunch today? I want to show you the new store designs. Every location will have a photo of you and Mom by the entrance. James smiles, typing back, Sounds perfect, son. But first, I have a lunch date with someone who's learning about second chances. Outside his window, Brooklyn awakens to another day of possibility, where dignity can be restored and redemption earned through honest work and genuine change. James Washington's story isn't unique, it's heartbreakingly common. The narrator's voice carries over footage of the now famous jewelry store, transformed into a welcoming space where customers of all backgrounds shop comfortably together. 6 months after the viral incident, Sterling & Associates has become a model for inclusive luxury retail. Statistics appear on screen. Research shows that 73% of Black Americans report experiencing retail discrimination in the past year. 45% avoid certain stores entirely due to previous mistreatment. But James's story proves that individual courage can spark systemic change. Cut to a montage of real people sharing their own experiences. I was followed around a department store for 30 minutes while my white friend shopped freely, shares Maria, a Latina teacher from Chicago. They asked for 3 forms of ID to buy a watch, then sold the same watch to the person behind me with just a credit card, says David, a Black engineer from Atlanta. The salesperson assumed I was shopping for the clearance section and wouldn't show me anything else. adds Sarah, a Native American small business owner from Phoenix. Their stories echo across America, revealing a pattern of judgment based on appearance rather than character. But here's what James Washington's experience also teaches us, the narrator continues as the camera shows James speaking at a university graduation ceremony. Dignity isn't something that can be taken away. It can only be given away. James addresses the graduating class with quiet authority. I walked into that store as a customer and was treated like a criminal, but I never stopped being who I am, a father, a veteran, a man who spent his life serving others. The camera captures students hanging on every word, phones recording this moment of wisdom. The young man who humiliated me lost everything that day, his job, his reputation, his future, but he gained something more valuable, the chance to become a better person. Cut to Derek Sterling at the Brooklyn Community Center, now 6 months into his transformation. He leads a workshop for teenagers about recognizing and confronting bias. I was the bad guy in a story that went viral, Derek tells the room of young faces. But Mr. Washington taught me that being the villain in someone else's story doesn't have to be the end of your own. The teenagers listen intently as Derek shares his journey from privilege to humility, from prejudice to understanding. Change isn't comfortable, Derek continues, but it's possible if you're willing to do the work. Statistical updates scroll across the screen. The Washington Luxury Group reports 89% improvement in customer satisfaction scores across all demographics. Employee bias incidents have dropped 94% since implementing new training protocols. More impressive than numbers are the human stories emerging from this transformation. James receives letters daily from people inspired to speak up when they witness discrimination. A white woman in Texas intervened when she saw a Latino family being ignored by restaurant staff. A young black man in Seattle started a nonprofit teaching retail workers about cultural sensitivity. The ripple effect continues growing, James reflects during an interview in his Brooklyn apartment. One moment of injustice became millions of moments of possibility. The camera shows James's dining room table covered with thank you letters from across the country. But the most important change isn't in policies or training programs, James continues. It's in individual hearts deciding they won't accept the way things are anymore. Cut to the jewelry store where it all began. Customers of every background browse freely, assisted by a diverse staff trained to see each person as worthy of respect. Melissa Rodriguez, now the company's Director of Customer Experience, greets each visitor warmly. Welcome to Sterling & Associates. How can we help you create something beautiful today? The contrast with Derek's initial greeting couldn't be more complete. So, here's what I want to know, James says, looking directly into the camera with the same dignity he maintained during his humiliation. What will you do the next time you witness injustice? His question hangs in the air like a challenge. Will you speak up when someone is being treated unfairly because of their race, age, or appearance? Will you use your voice to defend someone who feels voiceless? Will you choose to see dignity in every person you encounter? The camera shows scenes of everyday heroes, customers defending others, employees treating everyone equally, managers implementing fair policies. Because the truth is simple, James concludes with a smile that radiates warmth and wisdom. We all have the power to be someone's Michael Washington. We all have the opportunity to stand up, speak out, and transform injustice into justice. Final text appears on screen. Share this story if you believe dignity is a right, not a privilege. What will you do the next time you witness discrimination? James's final words echo over footage of him and Michael shopping together, father and son united in love and mutual respect. One man's dignity, one family's courage, one community's commitment to change. That's how we build a better world. One interaction, one intervention, one act of justice at a time. Your turn. Share, comment, subscribe, #Dignity Matters, #Justice for All, #Second Chances.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.